Kyle stood in the bedroom doorway, arms crossed, watching me struggle to sit up against the pillows. I still had the surgical brace strapped around my lower back, the bruise from the 4 on my hand. And he said it like a weather report. This Saturday, all 12 members of my family are staying for 2 weeks. Have everything ready. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. Then I saw his face. He wasn't joking. That was the moment I understood something had shifted in our marriage, and I hadn't been told. 5 days. That's how long since the surgeon closed the incision along my spine and told me I needed 4 weeks without lifting, without standing more than 15 minutes, without climbing stairs more than once a day. The restrictions were still folded in my nightstand, right next to the oxycodone I was barely taking. Kyle, I said evenly, I just had surgery. Please postpone even a few days. He didn't look up from his phone. No one is waiting. Just do as I say. That sentence didn't land in my chest where hurt lives. It landed in my stomach where something curdles. 22 years of marriage, and he'd never spoken to me like that before, like I was an employee whose time-off request had been denied. I nodded. He left, already texting his mother. That night, I lay awake. For the first time, I let myself actually think about the last 2 decades instead of just surviving them. Every summer, Kyle's family descended on our house, his parents, his brother Ethan's family, his sister, their toddler. 12 people for 2 weeks. I bought the gluten-free and bland groceries. I made up beds, blew up air mattresses, did mountains of laundry. I smiled in photos where I was always the one slightly outside the frame, the one who'd just run back to check on something. Not once in 22 years had anyone asked if I was tired. I reached for my laptop, not for recipes. For the first time in my marriage, I opened the folder containing the deed. My parents bought this house. When they passed, it came to me. Sole owner. My name, and only my name. Kyle had never asked to see it. In his mind, it simply became our house, somewhere he felt entitled to open up to 12 relatives without asking me first. I sat in the bathroom at 1 in the morning and felt something settle. Not anger. Clarity. The next morning, after Kyle left for work, I called Diane Foster, the attorney who'd handled my parents' estate. I told her everything. She listened, then said, Melissa, whose name is on the deed? Mine. Just mine. Then legally, you have full authority. You're not asking permission. You're informing him. I don't want to hurt him, I said. Her voice softened. You had major surgery 5 days ago. You are not obligated to host anyone while you're recovering. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. It's the bare minimum of taking care of yourself. I wrote that sentence on a sticky note and pressed it to my laptop. That week, I made calls from my car so Kyle wouldn't overhear. I booked a renovation crew to start Saturday morning, floor refinishing, painting, a full 2-week job. Standard contract, no occupancy during work. I arranged a rehab apartment for myself, a place with grab bars and a nurse. Friday night, I packed my medications, my laptop, my parents' photo, and left a note on the counter. Gone to recovery housing per doctor's orders. House closed for scheduled renovation work. Contractors have keys. Please don't interfere. I drove myself to the apartment and slept better than I had in 5 days. Saturday morning, 3 SUVs pulled into the driveway. 12 people spilled onto the lawn. And taped to the front door were 2 laminated signs, home closed for renovation. No occupancy until further notice. Through the windows they could see the crew already inside, a man sanding the hallway floor, plastic sheeting over the furniture, the chemical smell of primer seeping out. Kyle tried the door. Locked. The foreman came out, polite but firm. Nothing personal, sir. Company policy. Liability. Kyle called me 4 times before I even turned my phone on. When I finally picked up, his voice was sharp. No greeting. What did you do? I kept my voice level. Exactly what my surgeon asked. I'm recovering from major surgery. I told you I couldn't host 12 people. You said no one was waiting. My parents are on the porch. Ethan's kids are asking why we can't go inside. Do you understand what you've done? I understand I hired a contractor to do work my house has needed for 2 years. I understand my insurance is covering my recovery. And I understand I told you 5 days ago I needed you to postpone. Silence. Then he hung up. Linda called next, voice tight with fury. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? We drove 6 hours. This is completely selfish of you, Melissa. Completely. She caught herself, but I heard the shape of the word she swallowed. I texted her a photo of my discharge papers, the surgeon's restrictions in bold. Then, this is why. I hope you all find comfortable arrangements. I turned my phone face down. What followed, I heard in fragments. Kyle had to figure out dinner for 12 at 9 p.m., only to discover George hated Italian, Linda's stomach couldn't handle Mexican, and the toddler needed a specific cracker brand not sold at the gas station. He drove his parents to the pharmacy for forgotten medication. He fielded every small request that I had always silently resolved first. By day 5, his texts changed. Long day. Mom wants steak, Dad says no red meat. Can't win. I didn't reply. I wasn't being cruel. I just didn't have an answer, and I'd stopped believing it was my job to always have one. And then I opened the spreadsheet. I'd started it years ago for the household budget, but I'd also logged the summer visits. Groceries, utilities, replacement air mattresses, a new mattress for George's back, a rental car the year Ethan's transmission gave out, airfare for Linda and George 3 times. I sat at the rehab apartment table and added it up. The number at the bottom made me sit back. $185,412. Over 22 years. Not one thank you. I didn't cry. I felt something colder and clearer. Like a surgeon studying an X-ray. On what would have been the last day of the visit, I asked Kyle to gather everyone at the house. The renovation crew had finished, the floors gleamed, the air hummed quietly. I walked in, still moving carefully, and found all 12 of them sitting in the living room. I didn't sit. I handed each person a folder. Then I stood by the fireplace, the same spot where I'd stood in 100 Christmas photos, always slightly out of frame, and let them read the cover page. 22 years of hospitality. Below it, $185,412. Linda's face changed first. Then George's. Ethan flipped through faster, his jaw tightening at the photo of the rental car receipt. Can anyone name one vacation where I was treated like a guest instead of the maid? No answer. Can anyone remember asking whether I was healthy enough, or rested enough, or simply willing, before inviting yourselves into my home every summer for 22 years? Still nothing. Kyle stared down at his folder, and I saw something cross his face. Not defensiveness. Recognition. I'm not asking for the money back, I said. I kept this because I needed to see it written down to believe it myself. I looked at Linda. I have loved having this family. I have never once loved being invisible in my own house. I didn't wait for an apology. I left the folder in their hands and drove back to the apartment. I moved home 11 days later. Kyle and I didn't have one dramatic conversation. Real repair is 100 small adjustments. But a few days later, over coffee, he finally spoke. I didn't know it added up to that much. Not just the money. All of it. I didn't know because I never had to know. You always just handled it. I know, I said. I understand now, he said. I actually understand. We agreed, no more open door policy. Any future visit required both of our agreement, with clear expectations. Guests help. Guests clean. Guests do not treat me as staff. 6 weeks later, Kyle's parents visited properly, invited, with boundaries. Linda, for the first time in 22 years, brought a casserole. Mid-dinner, Ethan called wanting to join, and I heard Kyle's voice go firm. "No, Ethan, not this time. You'll need to plan with us in advance, same as anyone else." Later, I overheard him on the phone with his father. "Dad, this is Melissa's home. It was her home before it was ever mine. I should have remembered that years ago, and I didn't. That's on me, not her. I'm not arguing about it anymore." I stood in the doorway with a dish towel, listening to my husband defend me for the first time in our marriage. Months later, autumn. My back healed. And one Tuesday evening, my phone rang. It was Linda. Her voice, when it came, was smaller. Almost tentative. "Melissa, would next Saturday be a good time to visit, just for the afternoon? I'd call ahead, and bring something for lunch, if that's all right with you." I smiled, standing in my kitchen, the afternoon light gold through the window. It wasn't an apology. Linda Roberts might never quite manage those exact words. But it was a woman who once treated my home as a birthright, now asking gently if she might be allowed to knock. "Saturday would be lovely, Linda. I'll see you then." If you've ever felt invisible in your own home, I hope this reminded you it's never too late to be seen. Tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe to Lineage of Lies and ring the bell. Let's keep this journey going together.